Welcome back to Transform Teaching with ChatGPT. Here we are, section 3, and it's time to talk about lesson plans. I hear this on an almost daily basis from teachers who are just doing their best, the best that they can, using all the resources they have available, using all of their knowledge and their very best thinking, and they're still left with the question, what else can I do with these students? And the great ideas that I have, how do I put them together in a package into a plan that I can then use to guide my instruction and also to meet my accountability purposes of, turning in the lesson plans, sharing it with parents, and so forth. So we're going to take a look at all of that. This entire next session is all about lesson plans. First, we're going to just look at the general guidelines and examples of creating lesson plans, and then we're going to start looking at how do we modify those plans or expand them to meet the needs of diverse students in our classrooms. So let's go ahead and just jump right into lesson plans. First, we'll start with some general guidance. When you ask ChatGPT to give you a lesson plan, there are typically some things that it's always going to do for you. It's going to give you a title. It's going to give you objectives. It's going to give you a materials list. It's going to describe the instructional activities and generally some ways that you can use the instruction to engage students further. But if you ask, there are also some things that it can provide to you. Sometimes it will, sometimes it won't give you the content standards. So I recommend just going ahead and asking for them all the time. In fact, as a part of your prompt, you can actually tell ChatGPT which standards you want to address, and it will craft the lesson to meet those standards. So it can go both directions. It will either tell you what the content standards are, or it can give you the plan to meet the standards that you describe. Ask for assessment ideas. Ask for step-by-step instructions. It may generate some very interesting activities for you and maybe even some ideas that are new to you. So ask for step-by-step instructions. How do I do the activities? Of course, you're going to want to say, give me a list of resources that my students can use. I do recommend that you specify your pedagogical approach. Do you want cooperative learning? Do you want project-based learning? Do you want individual self-directed learning? What's the pedagogical approach? It will give you activities and give you things to do. But I do recommend that you actually specify, here's the way I want to teach my kids, and here's the way I want them to engage in the content of the instruction. And then you can ask for differentiation strategies. We're going to do that a bit more deeply in the next video within this section here. So, how do you create a good prompt? We spent quite a few videos, a handful of videos, talking about effective prompting. But for lesson plans, I do have, I guess you could call it a recommended list of information that goes into your prompt. I hesitate to say the word formula because there is no such thing as a perfect formula, but here are the things that I do recommend you ask for. As always, I recommend you ask for a persona. Tell ChatGPT you are an instructional specialist for middle school or something like that. Tell it something about the context. Who are the kids? What do they know? What are their learning challenges? How much time do you have? How many kids are there, and so on. Then you can give the instructional focus. Basically, what do you want the kids to learn as a result of this lesson plan? What's the end goal here? And then give it the specific task. Write a lesson plan for what components do you want to include in the lesson, the pedagogical approach that it should apply, any kind of differentiation you need, and quite obviously, how much time should it last? So I think, in my experience, by following these pieces here, you're going to get a pretty good lesson plan that is immediately useful to provide high-quality instructions for your students. So if you're following along in the prompts, We're looking now at prompt number 29. And what do we have here? You are a specialist, et cetera, et cetera. So we've got a persona, some context. 5th grade students, long division, first time that they're trying it. Here are the tests. 30 minutes. There's the time constraints. I want learning objectives, standards, activities, assessments. There's my pedagogy, cooperative and active, physical objects, and so on. So there's a lot in there. I had to really think through, as you do when you're creating a lesson plan, exactly what do you want the lesson to look like? How will students be engaged, and what do you hope to accomplish from it? And then create a worksheet, 5 items plus a challenge. Okay, so let's give it a try. Let's see what it looks like. And let me pull over to my prompts. We're on number 29. So let me grab all of that. And there we go. Now let's turn to ChatGPT and pop it in. Let's see. First, I want to start a brand new chat. Let's see what we get. Okay, so there's the whole prompt, and enter. I see that it's already just thinking away. 30-minute lesson plan, long division. There's my title. Okay, that's great. There's objectives. The 3 objectives that we hope to accomplish as a result of this. Good. We've got content standards. Notice I didn't give it the content standards, but it took the content that I was trying to teach and found the relevant standards to go with it. Then we've got materials, activities, introduction, guided practice with manipulatives, on and on and on, wrap up, assessment strategies, both formative and summative. I do like the emphasis on exit slips, because it gives you a really good spot check. It doesn't go in your grade book, but it gives you a spot check to help understand, what do I do tomorrow with these kids, right? What did they get out of today? We have differentiation strategies for both those who are academically delayed and for those who are ahead, because a lot of times when we talk about differentiation for special learning needs, we tend to talk about the kids who are struggling to master the content. But this is the other side of the bell curve also. What about the kids who grasp it quickly and need something more? So that's in there as well. I love that. Then we've got a worksheet, just 5 quick questions, plus a challenge for students to take home and practice and reinforce these skills. All right, so pretty neat, actually. That one is immediately useful. And let me get back to where we were. There we go. Okay, so there's a copy of it there, but we already looked at it. Now, some things that you can do to this, because ultimately this needs to be something that you can use immediately in your classrooms. And I know in a lot of cases, principals and supervisors and so forth will come in and ask to see your lesson plan. Mr. Bowman, let me see your lesson plan. And they'll take it and they'll look at it and they'll watch the kids and say, is this what the kids are actually doing? Okay. For better or for worse, that happens pretty regularly. So, to help you to understand how to conduct the activities, ask for a detailed lesson, a detailed outline with examples and steps, step-by-step instructions, add additional cooperative activities, for example. Lots of things that you can add to the lesson plan or as a supplement to the lesson plan that it creates. It doesn't always all need to go in the same plan. Sometimes it's a part 2. Okay, so we've got a lesson already, right? Let's expand upon it a little bit. Let's start with 30. Okay, we've got it. Now, give me a detailed outline. So this was the introduction section where you're introducing the content. What do I say? Give me some instructions here. So let's, within the same discussion, let's ask for an outline for the introduction. And of course, we're in the same discussion, so it can already reference all the stuff that it's already done. What do we got? Detailed objectives, steps, setting the context for a minute, asking responses. It even is giving sample text, sample problems that I can use for that, presenting, etc., real life. I mean, lots of really good stuff, because this is that whole part where, in this case, the teacher is first introducing the subject, the content, the skill to the students. And quick interactive check-in. And now we're going to do the transition to go from teacher-directed to student engagement. And so there's my transition. Very, very nice. Now, another follow-up on that? Okay. So we've got some activities in there. Let's say something is fairly new to you. Because remember, ChatGPT is pulling from a huge, huge body of work, right? As an individual teacher, we have the stuff we've read, the stuff that we've seen, the stuff that we have invented, right? Which can be a lot, but it's not as much as what ChatGPT can ask for. So sometimes it'll say, hey, try this activity. And we think that's neat, but how do I do it? Okay, so let's see. So we've got some activities up there. Let's get some step-by-step. Let's find one. Wrap up. I'll just choose a very simple one. How about cooperative problem solving? Okay. Activity using cooperative problem solving. And just to be nice, thanks. Let's see what it does for me. Should give me some step-by-step instructions on how to do it. Okay. Activity title. Great. This is great. Division detective, solving the case together. Very nice and appropriate at the 5th grade level. Objectives. So now we have detailed instructions just for that part of the lesson plan. Setup, roles, problem solving, etc. And share out and reflection, extension for quick learners, and differentiation for those students who are struggling. And then the transition to the next activity. Okay, very, very good stuff. And, okay, so we've done a couple of activities. Let's say we want a brand new one. Okay, all that's great. Give me more. It's basically what we're asking for. So let's ask for another one. And let's see if it can generate another one for us. Okay. And we're not going to spend much time looking at this. This is more in the way of an example. Okay, a brand new activity. Here's something I do recommend, and this is just from an instructional standpoint. I have a small set of core operating principles around instruction. One is students have to do something, right? Just listening isn't great. Probably the best advice I ever got was when I was doing my student teaching. I don't know how old I was, 22, 21, somewhere around there. Anyway, like 100 years ago. And I was really enthusiastic about this literature content I was discussing. And my teacher, this is like at the end of day one, she says, well, Dave, you really know a lot about this, but what are the kids supposed to be doing? Oh, good question. So one of my core operating principles for instruction is kids have to do something. Another one is always plan for more than what you think you're going to need. Sometimes things go a little quickly. And the third one is always have a replacement, a plan B. Sometimes things just don't work, or the kids are just they're not into it, or something goes wrong, right? Okay. Pick it out, do something else. So we often need the ability to just swap out on the fly. And that's what this prompt can help us to do. Just give me a whole new one. If I need it, I'll use it. And so there's a whole brand new cooperative activity. All right. Very, very good stuff. And debrief and so on and so on and so on and so on. And then the transition. So as you can see, it has really helped take that rather simple idea, first introduction to long division, 5th grade students, and has turned it into a very robust, immediately actionable plan that I can then go into my classroom tomorrow and follow it. And I'll tell you one thing, oftentimes, especially at the elementary level, oftentimes teachers are called upon to ask stuff in which they themselves are not as well versed, right? Not as big a deal at mid-school, high school, where people are beginning to specialize. The math lovers are teaching math, and the history lovers are teaching history, probably, right? But sometimes we're asked to teach content with which we are not as familiar. This is a good way to be able to teach with credibility, with authority, with a good flow, with a lot of great engagement to help the kids master the content that we wish for them to master. All right. Good stuff. All right. So with that in mind, so that's general lesson plans. We are going to turn our attention now to taking those general plans and start thinking more about students that have individualized learning needs. We love to talk about the general plan for kids and the resources that are great for all kids, as if every kid was somehow at the top of the bell curve, right? But the fact of the matter is, in every classroom, we've got a variety. So when we go to the next section, we're going to address that head on. So I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care.